In our headlines on this Thursday afternoon, July 11th, here on the peninsula. President Yoon Suk-yeol hosts a series of bilateral summits with his global counterparts on the sidelines of the NATO Summit in Washington, D.C. to advance economic partnerships and to share grave concerns over military ties between North Korea and Russia. And NATO's 32 members pledged their commitment to, quote, an irreversible path to future membership for Ukraine, as well as unwavering support for its defense against Russian aggression, which they claim is being decisively enabled by China. Meanwhile, on the domestic front, as widely expected by pundits here, policymakers at the Bank of Korea have decided to hold their key interest rate steady at 3.5% for the 12th session in a row. We start in Washington, D.C., where President Yoon Suk-yeol sought to shed grave light on deepening military ties between North Korea and Russia during separate interactions with a number of his global counterparts on the sidelines of the NATO Summit. Our senior correspondent Oh Soo-young reports from the U.S. capital city.
Building solidarity, President Yoon Suk-yeol gained the backing of various NATO partners on countering Russia and North Korea's military cooperation and its threat to global security. This came as the South Korean leader engaged in a series of bilateral meetings on the sidelines of the NATO summit held in Washington, D.C., representing Seoul as an invited partner country for the third consecutive year. According to his Deputy National Security Advisor Kim Tae-ho, the president met with leaders from 7 countries, including Canada, the Netherlands, Sweden, the Czech Republic, Finland and Japan, emphasizing the growing connection between Indo-Pacific and North Atlantic security interests. In light of Russia and North Korea last month forging a pact to aid each other militarily in the face of aggression.
The leaders agreed that the illegal military cooperation between Russia and North Korea poses a serious threat to security beyond the Korean peninsula, to the Indo-Pacific and Europe. They resolved to strengthen solidarity among nations that share core values and uphold the rules-based international order, and to firmly respond to Russia-North Korea military cooperation.
The South Korean leader and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida notably met for the second time this year, and the 11th time since Yoon's inauguration, as the two neighbours agreed to work closely with like-minded countries. Yoon noted that the recent developments between Russia and North Korea highlight the importance of the Camp David trilateral cooperation between South Korea, the US and Japan, which have been ramping up their joint military exercises and intelligence sharing to counter North Korea's continued provocations. The leader of the Netherlands also agreed to work closely with South Korea on denuclearizing North Korea and countering Pyongyang's cooperation with Moscow, while German Chancellor Olaf Scholz expressed his country's intention to join the United Nations Command, which has had a presence on the Korean peninsula since the 1950-53 Korean War. Yoon welcomed the move, deeming it a demonstration of Berlin's commitment to upholding a rules-based international order and contributing to peace and stability on the Korean peninsula. Also, Yoon met the Canadian Prime Minister and discussed their evolving security partnership through their 2+2 foreign and defence high-level dialogue, indicating a strong level of cooperation between two like-minded countries for global and regional security in the Indo-Pacific. Seoul, along with other Indo-Pacific partners of NATO, Japan, Australia and New Zealand, will convene separately on Thursday morning and issue their own statement criticising Moscow and Pyongyang, according to Yoon's office. Continuing his marathon of one-on-one meetings in DC, President Yoon also plans to sit down with NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg, along with the new UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer and the leaders of Norway, Luxembourg and Poland. However, in countering the Russia-North Korea axis, all eyes are on whether a meeting with US President Joe Biden will take place on Thursday before the South Korean leader heads to Seoul. Yoon's office says both allied countries are aware of the need for even a brief meeting between their leaders in a formal standalone setting, and that currently they are trying to make the meeting happen. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News, Washington, D.C.
Now, aside from raising security concerns, President Yoon Suk-yeol also sought to strengthen Korea's economic partnerships with its global counterparts. Our top office correspondent Kim Do-yeon has details.
President Yoon Suk-yeol is utilizing the NATO Summit in Washington, D.C. to enhance economic cooperation with member nations. This as he met with the leaders of 6 NATO member countries on the sidelines during his first day of the multilateral summit on Wednesday. They were Germany, Canada, Netherlands, Sweden, Czech Republic, and Finland. In regard to discussions over nuclear power plants, the top office says President Yoon appealed to 4 leaders from the Czech Republic, Netherlands, Finland, and Sweden that South Korea's nuclear energy technology is among the best in the world. South Korea and France are currently competing to be the preferred supplier for a project with up to 4 new units in the Czech Republic, with a final decision imminent.
President Yoon emphasized to President Pavel that South Korea possesses the world's best construction capabilities and overwhelming price competitiveness. He stressed that if South Korea is selected as the contractor, it would significantly contribute to the development of the nuclear power sector in the Czech Republic.
Critical minerals were also part of discussions as Sweden has Europe's largest deposit of rare earth minerals. South Korea and Sweden, as members of the Minerals Security Partnership, agreed to cooperate for the critical mineral supply chain. In the meantime, it was President Yoon's first time meeting with the new Dutch Prime Minister Dick Schoof, who took office earlier this month. South Korea and the Netherlands recently formed a CHIPS alliance to get the best out of South Korea's chip manufacturing capacity and the Netherlands' lithography technology. And the new Dutch Prime Minister says the change in government doesn't change that level of cooperation.
Prime Minister Schoof emphasized that South Korea plays a very important role in the semiconductor supply chain and suggested continuing the semiconductor cooperation between the two countries.
The top office says that the opportunity was used to, quote, reinforce the stepping stones for the nation's companies, and it's not done. While the main NATO Summit and the IP4 Summit are set to happen on Thursday, on the last day of President Yoon's trip, the top office also says that President Yoon will squeeze in more bilateral meetings in between main events to maximize face-to-face opportunities. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News, Washington, D.C.
Also in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday, NATO pledges its commitment to Ukraine's defense campaign against Russian aggression, which the Western Security Alliance claims is being decisively enabled by China. Our Yoon reports.
On Wednesday in Washington, the 32 nation leaders of NATO issued a joint declaration announcing a membership pledge for Ukraine, which also strongly condemned China's support for Russia. The declaration announced a long-term commitment to security assistance for Ukraine. A new NATO center will be established to take over most of the coordination for a more reliable flow of military equipment and training that Ukraine needs. The alliance also pledged to provide Ukraine with a minimum funding of $43.28 billion in military aid within the next year.
We will meet President Zelensky tomorrow in the NATO-Ukraine Council, but today we took major decisions to further strengthen our support and to share the burden. We agreed to launch NATO security assistance and training for Ukraine.
NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said that during the meeting, leaders decided to take further steps to bring Ukraine even closer to NATO. The alliance also pledged to continue support on an irreversible path to full Euro-Atlantic integration, including NATO membership. But Stoltenberg also highlighted that NATO will only be in a position to extend a membership invitation to Ukraine when the war with Russia is over, when the allies agree and conditions are met. The alliance condemned Russia's rhetoric, as well as nations enabling Russia's war, including the stationing of nuclear weapons in Belarus, as well as Iran and North Korea for providing direct military support. But there was stronger condemnation for China, which was labeled a decisive enabler that continues to pose systematic challenges to Euro-Atlantic security. The Washington Summit declaration said NATO remains committed to taking all necessary steps towards a nuclear deterrence mission, saying it would enhance integrated air and missile defense. Yoon, Arirang News.
And in related news, the first batch of US-built F-16 fighter jets is being transferred to Ukraine. Addressing members of NATO in Washington, D.C., U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said the F-16s were being transferred to Ukraine from Denmark and the Netherlands and will be in operation this summer. In response, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky took to social media to share his appreciation of Western efforts to bolster Ukraine's air force, but highlighted the need for 128 fighter jets to better counter Russian aggression. The number of American fighter jets currently being transferred to Ukraine has not been disclosed. As widely expected by pundits here, policymakers at the Bank of Korea have decided to hold their key interest rate steady at 3.5% for the 12th session in a row. Our correspondent Lee Soo-jin reports.
South Korea's central bank has yet again left its benchmark interest rate unchanged at 3.5%. The decision was announced on Thursday following the first Monetary Policy Committee meeting for the second half of the year.
We have decided to maintain a tightened monetary policy as there is still a need to monitor inflation, as well as the impact of rising household debt and the volatile foreign exchange market.
This is the 12th consecutive time that the BOK has decided to freeze the rate. The base rate was last raised in January 2023 to the current 3.5% and has been left steady since then. The rate freeze decision this month comes despite inflation showing signs of easing. South Korea's consumer price index, a key gauge of inflation, rose by 2.4% in June compared to the same month the year before. The rise in consumer prices hovered above 3% at the start of the year before dropping below the 3% mark in April and remaining in the 2% range for 3 consecutive months. And the June figure was the lowest seen in 11 months, inching closer to the target inflation figure of 2%. But ongoing concerns about household debt and the largest ever interest rate gap are deterring the BOK from rate hikes. In June, household loans from 5 major commercial banks in Korea, KB Kookmin, Shinhan, Hana, Uri, and NH Nonghyup, surged by more than $3.8 billion, the largest on-month rise since July 2021. And the U.S. Central Bank, in its most recent June meeting, decided unanimously to keep key interest rates at that 5.25 to 5.5% range, marking the 7th consecutive meeting where the Fed has kept its interest rates at the same level. This has left the rate gap between the two countries at its highest ever at 2 percentage points, raising concerns that the South Korean won could continue to weaken against the greenback. While the U.S. Central Bank's policymakers and projections released by the Fed last month were split over how many rate cuts there will be this year, most expected there to be 1 or 2 rate cuts amid the U.S. making moderate progress towards its target 2% inflation and the labor market cooling. As it's unlikely that the BOK will cut interest rates ahead of the United States, Korea's central bank is expected to ease its monetary policies only once in October this year, after the Fed's possible rate cut in September. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
Over in France, Samsung Electronics hosted its second Galaxy Unpacked for this year, Wednesday afternoon in Paris local time. Our Park Eun-woo covers the event.
Samsung Electronics unpacked its slimmest and lightest foldable smartphone series, the Galaxy Z Flip 6 and Fold 6, in Paris on Wednesday with added AI features.
Because life-enhancing innovations should be open to all, we've been putting Galaxy AI into the hands of more people around the world. Galaxy AI will be available on 200 million Galaxy devices this year.
AI functions are now available on Samsung's foldable series for the first time and are even stronger than those on the Galaxy 24 series, the company's first AI smartphone, released at the beginning of this year. Samsung's foldable phones now provide real-time AI translation for 16 different languages during phone calls on third-party messaging apps, including KakaoTalk and WhatsApp, and during everyday conversations. The AI technology can even create more sophisticated artwork from simple sketches done on your phone. With stronger durability and a design that reduces creases on the screen when folded, pricing for the Galaxy Z Flip 6 starts at $1,099.
The base model Fold 6 will cost $1,899. Also on Wednesday, the Seoul-based tech giant unveiled its Galaxy Ring. The lightweight Galaxy Ring, weighing around 3 grams, allows people to measure and record sleeping patterns, heart rate, and respiration rate. It can be worn daily for a full week on a single charge. The price starts from $399. Other products, including the latest series of the Galaxy Watch and Galaxy Buds, were also revealed at the event. The official release date for all of the products is July 24th. 박건우, Arirang News.
Back on the local front, monsoon rain in the central and southern parts of Korea has taken at least 5 lives, while thousands remain in temporary shelters. Our Yoon has the latest.
At least 5 people have died and 1 person is reported missing from intense downpours in the central and southern regions of South Korea. Torrential rain struck in the early hours of Wednesday, flooding homes and leaving residents stranded. In Chungcheongnam-do Province, roads were flooded and 1 person died in the elevator of a building that had flooded up to the first basement level. With rainfall exceeding 110 millimeters per hour recorded in the central province, 2 more deaths were caused by landslides. In the southern parts of the country, 2 people are reported to have lost their lives, with 1 person still missing. Gunsan City in Jeollabuk-do Province saw the highest amount of rainfall recorded as rain there poured down at a rate of more than 130 millimeters per hour. The Meteorological Administration described the overnight rainfall as a record-breaking downpour that occurs once every 200 years.
물이 차가지고 어떻게 엄두가 안 나갖고 이 이불을 내가 얼른 올려놨지요. 올려놓고 전기를 다 내렸어요. 무서워서.
According to the government, hundreds of homes were damaged and more than 4,000 residents were evacuated nationwide. As the monsoon season continues, the government has stated its commitment to closely monitoring weather conditions and minimizing human casualties. With the heavy rain subsiding, the alert level of the Central Disaster and Safety Countermeasures Headquarters was lifted on Wednesday night, and the nationwide landslide crisis alert has been downgraded from serious to caution. However, due to continuous rain, the government has cautioned about the potential for landslides due to weakened ground conditions. The Korea Meteorological Administration forecasts cloudy weather in southern regions and rain in Jeju Island for the weekend. Yoon, Arirang News.
In other news, South Korea's Navy is partaking in the world's largest maritime warfare exercise in Hawaii that also includes live fire drills. Our defense correspondent Choi Min-jung is there.
총원 전투 배치! 전투 배치! 전투 배치! 전투 배치! 전투 배치! 함장님, 현 시각 적 지대함 유도탄 집초가 있습니다. SM2 이용 교전 실시하겠습니다. SM 파이어! 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
South Korea's SM-2 ship-to-air missile successfully hit its target in the live fire exercise held in Hawaii. The drill was conducted by the Navy on Tuesday local time at the Pacific Missile Range facility on the sidelines of the rim of the Pacific International Maritime Exercise. The missile was launched from this Yulgogi warship behind me to hit a virtual target approaching at high speed. The ship detected and tracked an unmanned hypothetical enemy aircraft with an Aegis radar and fired an SM-2 missile, accurately hitting the target. As demonstrated, the SM-2 is designed to intercept enemy missiles and aircraft from the sea. It has an attack range of around 150 kilometers. The live fire demonstration comes amid evolving threats from North Korea.
Through this exercise, our Navy verified its ability to engage in anti-aircraft guided missile combat and improved its guided missile operation capability. If the enemy provokes us, we will punish them immediately, strongly, and to the end.
South Korea successfully conducted the first domestic live-fire test of SM-2 missile interceptors last December. Meanwhile, the country's Ibomseok submarine will also conduct a live-fire drill next week using the anti-ship Harpoon missile to target a decommissioned U.S. Navy warship. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News, Hawaii.
Meanwhile, for those of you seeking a short break from the hustle and bustle of daily life, my colleague An Sung-jin suggests a unique temple stay that also warmly welcomes your furry friends. Do take a look.
Away from the city in the peace and quiet of nature. It's a healing day at a temple in Chungcheongbuk-do Province, South Korea, a 2-hour drive from Seoul. Those in need of a rest can head to a temple to experience the life of a Buddhist practitioner and escape the stresses of everyday life. But this temple stay is a bit different. You get to do all of this, but with your dog.
You may think you brought your dogs, but I believe the dogs brought you here.
In coordination with the Korea Tourism Organization, Pan Life is a platform for pet owners to find anything from one-day activities to hotels and resorts that allow pets. This year, it branched out into temple stays where you can take your dog with you. This program comes as more and more South Koreans have pets.
This program is carried out to discover and further develop smaller tourist areas. In the future, we look to expand programs like these nationwide to revitalize domestic tourism.
Running once a month from May till November except for July and August due to the heat, up to 12 human participants and their dogs can attend at a time. Due to high demand, the previous session was fully booked within 30 seconds. Dogs get to wear their own Buddhist robes, and participants also get to enjoy various activities such as making your own lily lantern and learning how to do the Buddhist 108 prostration.
Having this kind of program allows me to spend more time with my body. And I think there are not many places, even that my dog and I can go. So having this kind of program where you can be intimate with your dog and see other dogs as well, I think it's really good.
There are many ways to find internal peace, and perhaps for this summer, staying at a temple with your pet dog could be your getaway from the stress of everyday life. 안성진, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. Monsoon rain takes a break on the mainland today, but you still need to keep an umbrella handy as there will be passing rain. It could pour down once it starts to rain. Meanwhile, Jeju Island will see monsoon rain through tomorrow with up to 80 millimeters in the forecast. The heat advisory remains in place for the capital, parts of Gyeonggi-do and Gangwon-do province. Skies could turn cloudy or sunny like yesterday with sudden showers, so brace for weather swings with very high humidity. Feels like temperatures will be higher than what the thermometer shows today. Seoul gets up to 31 degrees Celsius. Daejeon and Gyeongju will see a high of 29 degrees. Now, monsoon rain is in the forecast for Jeju through early next week, while central regions will see passing rain instead. And with the heat and humidity, it's essential to take care and protect yourselves from foodborne illness around this time. Remember, food safety is a must. With that in mind, let's take a look at the international weather conditions.
That ends our Thursday afternoon newscast. Coming up right after this break is our daily panel session, so do stay with us.